Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and we are live at myworldpod.com immediately following night one of WrestleMania 41. And we're looking to hear from you. What did you think? Did you dig the show? What did you like? What didn't you like? Hit us with those comments and keep them coming. Let's just start right at the top, though, Double J. What'd you think, man? The big story is Seth Rollins is now aligned with Paul Heyman. So not one, but two low blows. What'd you think?
Oh, well, first off, happy Easter weekend. I was out at my brother's, and the days of sitting around watching a pay-per-view, out of a box are gone, streaming it. So I watched part of it going out there, ate dinner and all that, but watched the last match, driving back home, and probably the last 10 minutes at here at the Casa, getting ready to do our live show. Paul Heyman, 1987, 88, whatever it was when he first came to Memphis. And I just kind of think about the main event of WrestleMania, and the entire story was wrapped around him. I'm saying this with unbelievable respect, a non-wrestler, and the twists and turns and story, drama, captivating, grand stage. It's why we all do what we do. Curveball here, curveball there, man. It's professional wrestling at its finest when you people get emotionally connected to the story, and it takes another plot turn and another plot turn, and the facials on the wise man. Hats off to my man. Hats off to Paul Heyman. Fantastic story.
I want to hear from you guys. What did you think was the match of the night? Was there a match in particular that exceeded your expectations? I am going to ask Double J what his favorite match of the night was, but I do want to address the elephant in the room. This always makes me laugh, Jeff, but I do feel like we should address it because I know we're going to see this. Daniel Mills is with us, and he says, it's so disrespectful to Tony Khan that Jeff is reviewing WrestleMania. I guess that means if you work for one wrestling company, you can't watch wrestling for the other wrestling companies. Have you ever heard of that rule, Jeff? I've never heard that rule before.
Well, Mr. Daniel Mills, I appreciate the thought, and if you are a My World listener, I'm assuming you're, I don't know about that, but dude, I just got to lay it out on the line. I was a wrestling fan first in my life, and rising tide lifts all ships. There's no doubt about it. I love competition. You better believe I am pulling for AEW with all my might, all my heart. It's at the very, very top. There is no close second. There is no close third. There is no close fourth. With that being said, I just got to tell you that I have a strong affinity to the Titans, but I bet they watch as many NFL games as they can. The tribalism, I think it's great for professional wrestling. I did an interview with the Orlando Sentinel, my man Jade, about a month ago. And when I told him my opinion on the tribalism and all that, I said, I absolutely love it. It shows a complete, deep compassion. So, Daniel, hats off to you for having that opinion and engagement and feel so strongly about being a fan of AEW. I appreciate that. But I will say candidly that the professional industry is something that my family got into over 80 years ago, 1946. My grandmother got her first paycheck out of the business. So, I'm a pro wrestling lifer, and me and Connie sit down and we do a podcast every week. And so we're diving headfirst in, and we talk about all wrestling from the bottom of the independent scene all the way, every promotion, TNA, AAA, New Japan. It doesn't matter. So
it's a wrestling podcast, Jeff. We talk about wrestling, and there's no bigger show than WrestleMania. I don't care where you work. This is the granddaddy of them all. We all know that. And if we had a football podcast and decided we're not going to talk about the Super Bowl, it might be a little silly, but we appreciate you joining us, and thank you for the thought. Keep those questions coming. If you've got a question for Double J, we are indeed live, and we do have a correspondent, if you will, who was inside the building. And he says, as fans are filing out, they're just rotating and playing different theme songs. This WWE audience is being super served this weekend. I mean, what a list of events and what a series of matches tonight. We are going to break down the matches, but I feel like we should address maybe one of the bigger stories of the year. WWE has purchased AAA. Yes, the promotion that we've seen Jeff go down south of the border and wrestle quite a bit for. You see, to Michael Cole's right, that's Dorian, great friend of the show. We've hosted him here in Huntsville, and you and I've had a blast with him in Mexico, and just a great man from a great family. And now it feels like the entire legacy of AAA is now associated with WWE. And everybody wants to know, what do you expect? I guess since we're just addressing the elephants in the room, Jeff, does this mean you can or can't, or do you even know? Can you work with AAA again? It feels like they're a WWE product now. That's weird, isn't it?
Yes. You know what? I immediately, look, it's no secret. Those rumblings had been going on, not for months, but for years. But for the chips to finally fall, I just got to think back to Antonio Pena, 30 plus years ago, founding it, and to kind of see where his creation has evolved. Change is good, folks. I got many texts, Conrad, as you can imagine. Hey, man, give me your thoughts on that. The bottom line is, I think change is fantastic for the industry. I just got to tip my cap to Dorian, because you kind of look at how Dorian and his parents candidly acquired the business. A very unfortunate situation when Pena founded it. You know, it would have been, who would have, they couldn't have called that Pena was going to pass away. And then Dorian was, God, he was a college kid at the time. And here we are 20 plus years later. And not only did they build the business, but, 30 years of Triple Mania, and they've, WWE's come in and acquired it. It's private money, if you will. So those guys are on a roll, and they acquired it. And time will tell whether it's good or bad for the brand. I know one thing: it's absolutely great for the Roldan family, and that is what I'd like to celebrate today. Tonight, without knowing, any future plans. I heard Worlds Collide. I immediately think of my man Mike Tenay. But Conrad, change is good in this business, and boy, oh boy, it is. I land back onto, because Karen has in a lot of ways, she worked in AAA as much or more than any promotion she's ever worked for. She worked for TNA. She currently works for AEW, but she did a lot of dates in Mexico, and at times, she's we were the number one heel package down there, if you will. And so to kind of see where things have gone and all the time we spent down there, Maricela, Karen and Maricela behind the scenes had a very, very good, deep relationship, as ladies do. So, man, Connie, what do you think, bud? What do you think?
I think it is a huge win for Lucha Libre. I think Lucha Libre is now going to have a bigger global impact because it has the WWE machine behind it. And I assume that Mr. Roldan is going to be getting a vacation home here in the States very soon, if I had to guess. Super happy for our friend Dorian, and super happy for his entire family. I think it is a big time move for WWE, but I know that my phone blew up today, and a lot of people were completely caught off guard. Jeff, I mean, when I was in Mexico City in 2022, this was being spoken about like this was the goal a long time ago. I mean, Dorian was working with George and Michelle, so I know it snuck up on a lot of people. I can only imagine that maybe the MLW thing caused a little bit of a delay, and maybe there was a bit of a pause. And I don't know if you've heard, but there's been some upheaval with WWE. So the world has changed quite a bit, but I feel like Dorian has had this sort of moonshot in mind for quite a while. So I'm happy he finally landed the thing, right?
Kind of, I'd say 2018, 19. Yeah. And that's the first I heard of it. So I'm, certainly don't hear all the news. So it's been in the works for years. And that's where, a deal that goes down of this magnitude, when it catches some folks off guard, to me, that's a little bit of head scratcher, but that's okay. It is what it is. And I echo the thoughts that, back to kind of the mindset of promotions working together, and as things evolve, and look, our relationship way back when with AAA at TNA was very, very fruitful. And look, it goes without saying, the Hispanic market in the United States is enormous. What's going to be interesting is, how do they move forward? How does, in the country of Mexico, what does AAA business look like? Because, they have, 100, I think, I don't know how many IP they have, but, lots of wrestlers under contract, and they would wrestle limited dates because AAA only did, 26, 30 shows of TV dates a year, but their talent worked all over the country. But they, AAA acted as their booking agent. How does that business proceed? What's it look like? Where does the business, but change is good, man. It's, the business continues to evolve. And I think that's the most positive thing out of all of it.
We're going to be talking more about this coming week on My World. So make plans to join us. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell now. Briefly, though, you did mention the Worlds Collide event that was announced today. Of course, that's sort of the granddaddy of them all for a lot of Lucha Libre fans. It was a AAA WCW show way back when in the early 90s. But now we hear it's coming back at 3 Eastern on June 7th in Los Angeles, California at the Kia Forum. This is going to be a super show. I can't wait to see it. And a lot of people are having some fun with this. We saw Tom Campbell send a funny tweet out, and it was reminiscent of Wrestlemania 17. If you recall seeing all those WCW wrestlers in the box, friend of the show, Tom Campbell says, "Oh, here's the AAA roster tomorrow night at Wrestlemania." That would make me laugh. I don't know what Conan is necessarily tweeting about, but he's got some people stirred up on social media as well. But what everybody is interested in talking about most of all tonight is WrestleMania. And Matt Fisher is with us here live, and he says, I knew it. Paul Heyman is a Seth Rollins guy. FYI, I love the show, and here's to 25 years of saying slap nut because of you. Well, thanks, Matt. We appreciate you saying that. I actually put a poll up during the main event, and I basically asked, hey, we know who Paul Heyman is walking to the ring with. That's CM Punk. Who will he leave the ring with? And 67% of people called that it was going to be Seth Rollins. And I got to tell you, Jeff, I don't know anything about wrestling, but I would think as a promoter, you think, hey, two of my biggest merch movers, two of my biggest baby faces, the guys that I know are going to get cheers and lots of representation. Well, that would be Roman Reigns, and that would be CM Punk. So it makes sense if you're going to have a great heel mouthpiece like Paul Heyman, slide him over to a guy who maybe needs some heel heat. And if what Michael Cole said is true, that the bloodline has seemingly gone their own separate ways, that makes sense. You don't want Paul Heyman as a babyface manager, right? You need him as a heel manager.
Money. And look, the twist and the turns and everything that went with it, but you don't see Roman going back heel, and certainly as you nailed Punk, the merch mover, it kind of lines up logically, but the twist and the turns, and it goes back to the drama of professional wrestling. I was out at my brother's, and yes, we're a wrestling family, but more than half of the crew out there, my sister, her kids, we were celebrating Easter, and they're certainly not weekly watchers. Can't say they never watch wrestling, but the questions that came about, and the things that kind of jump off the page, and these are not casual watchers, maybe a step lower, is the high production value and all that. But man, the people that were hanging on every false finish in there tonight, they knew the story of Heyman. And that, to me, as a wrestling fan, no matter how you slice it or dice it, Connie, the drama that goes into a main event match or any wrestling match that you really have them hooked in from emotional, dude, I still love the genre of entertainment when it goes down like that.
Trigger Cheese is with us, and he says, too much kicking out of finishers for me. What is your opinion? Jeff, this is sort of the way wrestling's been done for a while now. What do you think? Were there too many finishers being kicked out of tonight?
And I saw that early. Trigger Cheese came through on that. Trigger, shout out, pal. I always love you tuning in. I don't know if you're so you weren't specifically talking about just the main event. You know what? I think going back to my line, and I hate to be so plain with it or simple with it, it's this simple. Creative is subjective. There may be too many kickouts for you. It might not. We weren't there live. I understand there's some things that you kind of want to keep sacred about not kicking out of people's finishes. Again, the evolution of the industry, 38, 39 years ago when I broke in, I don't want to go down that road and the different stories, but things just change. And what were once finishers become high spots. And that's the nature of the beast. Where does it stop? It's a good question.
We got another question here from Coach T, the Wolfpack basketball guy. He says, day one of Mania has NXT as a lead-in to provide all day for wrestling for fans. Should WWE run Evolve or TNA do a show on Sunday to keep it going? There's less tomorrow for Easter. Of course, we do have church. I would argue that perhaps even readjusting how and when we do the Hall of Fame. I don't know if you stayed awake last night, Jeff, but you would have been up until 3:45 in the morning where you and I live to finish the Hall of Fame.
No way.
If there's some adjusting to the schedules, it started at 1 a.m. here, Jeff. So if there was some adjusting to the schedule next year for WrestleMania, if NXT was sort of the lead in for night one, do you need a different lead in for night two, or do you want to leave that open for church or family time, or you're just your world, or do you need another wrestling show?
Well, you got to throw out. Now, that was something that several of my daughters asked. They're like, Dad, this is Easter weekend. I'm like, yes. And the slowest week of the year, all 52 weeks in Vegas, slowest week is Easter. So the city of Las Vegas got out a big fat checkbook and wrote a check, and they brought Mania to town on Easter week. It was a business deal. And look, we'll call it a music festival. When you drill down into the DNA of a music festival that goes on 3 days, they have music, 12 hours a day. So you can't say, oh, that's too much wrestling. Well, that's what the weekend's about. So I'm going to lean into, why not? Oh, you can't do that. Well, why not? You had it today, have another lead in tomorrow. So I just think the brands and how the business, again, it continues to massively evolve. I just can't overstress that. Not just the AAA or the lead in or the weekend and how everybody's working with everybody. You just kind of look at. I was sitting there looking at the not a crane shot, on the zip line. I'm not coming to me, but a couple of different camera shots, and it took me back to Wembley the first year. As the people were filing in during 0 hour, and you saw the people way up in the top, and they were doing some shots. It's just, the big events now, stadium shows. It's just, oh no, you can't do a stadium. Oh yeah. Oh no, now we're doing back-to-back night stadium. So why not open with a wrestling show on Sunday?
I want to remind Jeff, we got the private chat you may want to take a look at. But what I saw is WWE received $5 million for the opportunity to have WrestleMania in Las Vegas. I think they probably got the building free, probably got the convention center free. But what I know is, and this made some mainstream news, that WrestleMania 39 added over $215 million of economic impact for Los Angeles. There were 162,000 attendees. So listen, these companies, these cities, they're rolling out the big paydays, the big paychecks for these events, and doing it on Easter weekend made a lot of sense for Vegas, and it made a lot of sense for WWE. But we want to know what you guys thought about WrestleMania. We're getting a lot of different feedback about the show. I want to hit a few questions here. Ian McCook, want to give you a shout out for joining us here live. Jake from Windy City says, Happy Mania, Jeff and Connie. WWE should really consider moving the Hall of Fame to a different night, not after a 3-hour long SmackDown and then delaying it. I think everybody agreed. I don't know if you saw that, Jeff, but there were so many viral pictures of talent falling asleep in their seats. Next year, they're going to have to do something else.
Well, come on. I mean, yes. To me, that's a no-brainer. If you're out there, why not put it on Thursday night? That roast as well as tomorrow night after the show, I think.
But that's not being broadcast anywhere, so who cares?
Okay, point taken. But, yeah, why not put it on a Thursday night? In the streaming world, it's not like you're arguing for channel space, a shelf space. So, I think they'll make the adjustment. It's always happens that way. When something doesn't work, you change it the next year.
By the way, it's interesting to see that WWE just decided to bet on themselves. They aired the Hall of Fame on YouTube. So because it's on YouTube, YouTube is global. Hey, it's not the middle of the morning everywhere. So, they got a lot of traction there and they're making money on their YouTube channel. So good for them. Shout out to Corey James, who says, I sold you both out to Cody yesterday for the video game talk on his IG Live. And he said he's going to take both you two old asses to the woodshed in a foot race. So good luck. Enjoy losing to a gold medalist. Shout out to Cody bringing home the hardware. I saw he got a couple. He finished it in a couple of different categories, didn't he? I saw first place, second place.
Jade Lethal came in, gave him a nice belt. He's wearing that around. He wore it to the gym this morning. So Corey, shout out. A bunch of nonsense. Me and Conrad are going to take you to the woodshed, my man. We appreciate your question. We appreciate your comment. But that smack talk from Cody's got to go. Let's keep rolling here, pal.
61,467 fans is what was announced by Shawn Michaels. And of course, I saw some folks online in the build-up for this saying, oh, what a massive fall off. It's not sold out. As a reminder, it is Easter weekend in Las Vegas, which is historically tough to draw. And I don't know if you've seen this, Jeff, but over the last 8 months or so, it feels like most of the WWE tickets, or a good portion of them, have moved in the last 2 weeks. So I don't know what the official number is. I'm sure Dave Meltzer will correct it. But either way, this is going to be a gate record. I mean, I expect records for sponsorship and in every merch, like every metric, especially with this being the first WrestleMania that was global on Netflix. I know here in America, we watched it on Peacock, but we saw people in India seeing it live, maybe for the first time ever. This is going to break all the records, will it not?
Well, that was another thing that family members who, aren't dialed in to week is all the sponsors. And they were like, hey, and I'm like, you're right. I'll say the Vince McMahon run WWE didn't believe in sponsorships on the map. It's a new day. Obviously, TKO views it completely different, and you couldn't find any mat space or turnbuckles or barriers around the ring. So, it's again, the evolution of the business, and hats off to all of them. So, yeah, record-breaking weekend in a lot of metrics.
Ray J's World is here with us live. We greatly appreciate you joining us. He wanted to know your thoughts on the AAA acquisition. We covered that at the top of the show, Ray J, but he also says TNA will still be involved with the WWE partnership. We don't know I know they have a partnership, but I don't think it's necessarily an ownership thing. But Jeff, because of this news, of course, everyone is now looking back a week ago and saying, hey, The Rock went live on IG wearing a New Japan shirt. Do you think New Japan could be next? I even saw Kevin Kelly and others suggesting that, hey, New Japan could be next. I've heard through the grapevine that New Japan hasn't been profitable since the pandemic. I don't know if that's true or not. I even heard a number that was floated, and I thought, that doesn't seem like that big of a deal. That feels like you could maybe get a return on that. But then it sort of clicked for me, Jeff. Like, realistically, what is the value of a New Japan besides the library? It feels like a lot of their talent now works for AEW. Do you think there will be a New Japan transaction in, say, the next 24 months? If you had a crystal ball, you've seen this wrestling game. Do you think AEW or WWE or someone else may wind up purchasing New Japan? Is that possible?
I definitely think it's possible. And, you just kind of look at the world we live in now. And not that long ago, when you kind of put a strategy into an international market, you said, okay, how am I going to monetize the market? The first thing you'd say is, okay, rights fees. I got to get my program in there. And then the second thing would be licensing. Third would be live events. And we can kind of get going on that. Now with the streaming world, whether it's Max or Netflix or whatever it may be, you can get into a market. You're already monetizing your content from a rights fees. And so the live event business, and look, at the very core of New Japan, they were a live event industry. And so there you have it. I absolutely think that the economies of scale and back in and all that no doubt New Japan could be acquired. AEW, WWE, again, consolidation. It happens at all businesses. We're staring down the barrel of a few hours old. I'm curious back to the AAA on how that business was run by the Rollins and how it's going to be run in the future. Where do live events fall in? It's going to be really, really interesting.
What else was interesting is to see what they did with a bad situation. Last night on SmackDown, Rey Mysterio was injured and he was unable to compete. Of course, he was supposed to be in a pretty marquee matchup with what we believe is Chad Gable, but we haven't seen it confirmed. It's El Grande Americano. And the solution was, well, let's slide Rey Fénix into there. I really enjoyed that match. I thought it was a really fun match. I'm a big fan of this version of Chad Gable. I don't know why it tickles me so much, but I think it's fun stuff. And what a performer he is. But I was a little surprised that he got the win over Rey Fénix. What'd you think?
I think had the legend, my bud, Ray been in there, Chad would have been counting them lights, my man. But I think in the substitution, they had to kind of figure out. And what was very interesting, there is many luchadors that are on the roster. They choose Fénix to sub. Where will that go? And of course, Vikingo got in the ring and helped him up afterwards. Was that to kind of feature maybe a shine the light on AAA? I don't know. Fénix, AAA champion, former champion. I don't know. I thought that was a real interesting choice. I think the finish was in a lot of ways a no-brainer. Because Chad definitely got momentum with that character. And again, going back to the Heyman and then the storyline and just how the lucha and the mask is being spotlighted. It might not be for everybody's taste, but it is spotlighting the lucha heritage.
Big fan of what they did with Chad Gable here. I'm curious to see where it goes next. I did notice that over the weekend or this past week, I guess they changed it and they said, I think Pat McAfee even explained it on his show, that it was called the Gulf of Mexico when El Grande Americano was born. So they're going to switch it from saying he's from the Gulf of America, and now they're saying he's from the Gulf of Mexico. But tonight on the introductions, they said America. But Michael Cole was quick to say, oh, she must not have gotten the memo. He's actually, isn't that interesting that that's even a talking point at this point?
Oh, that's interesting. Is that what Cole said? Didn't get the memo. Okay.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that they wanted that.
I would have loved to have heard what was said over the headsets.
I can't imagine that it was all complimentary. I'm going to be pretty complimentary about Jey Uso, though. The crowd was with him. I thought he had a nice entrance tonight. He wanted to be first on the show, and he was. And Gunther was his opponent. I was kind of surprised with the finish. I mean, I expected Jey Uso to win, but I can't say that I expected him to win by submission. Once upon a time, I was talking with Tony Schiavone over on his podcast, What Happened When, and he said that he didn't like the War Games. And I thought that was just sacrilegious that an NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, WCW guy would say, I didn't like War Games. But his rationale, Jeff, was he doesn't think that the submission finish resonates with a live audience. He feels like the anticipation of a ref counting 1, 2, it brings about a heightened sense, and then you get the big pop from the crowd. They can't really anticipate the submission. I would have liked to have seen the spectacle of a 1, 2, 3 from Jey Uso, but maybe I'm splitting hairs. What'd you think?
I love my wrestling. I'm not positive that I know all of Jey Uso's finishes. I certainly don't think he has the sleeper or whatever you want to call it established. I thought that was a big time risk. I'm just very curious why they chose that, especially on the opener. To each his own. It got the desired pop. I think it could have been much, much bigger with a 1, 2, 3. I would be in complete alignment with Mr. Schiavone.
Seb Knowlton says, seeing Booker T fall asleep at the Hall of Fame ceremony made me think he tuned in to JJ Dillon's old podcast. That's a deep cut, Seb. We appreciate you joining us here. Mike Fisher says, thoughts on Triple H thanking people for an entire hour during his Hall of Fame speech and not mentioning The Rock once. Well, that's something I didn't notice, but I know a few years ago when The Undertaker was inducted in the Hall of Fame, everyone noticed he didn't mention Mick Foley. You know, I think we should cut Triple H a break. It's the middle of the freaking morning. It's the biggest weekend of the year. It's not like he's had a ton of time to think about this speech. He's being pulled in a million different directions, fresh off of the go home SmackDown the night before WrestleMania, the morning before, just hours before the NXT show. I don't think that's that big a deal, but what do you think? Do you think there is some sort of professional rivalry with Triple H and The Rock, and he intentionally didn't mention The Rock?
Oh, well, intentionally, it's a good question. But if you're talking over an hour, I would think you would. It's not like you were rushed for time, Connie. So let's kind of. I don't want to dissect it too much, but look, no matter what went down in we'll say, and they wrestled each other a lot, but at the end of the day, Rock truly is the final boss. Surprises me that he didn't mention him.
Mick Mac is with us here live, and he says, hey, from Australia, Jeffrey. So how about that? We got some folks from down under hanging out.
Down under, Mick Mac. How we doing?
Coach T has another question. Mr. Jarrett, with your promoter hat on, night one, they ended with heat. Would you end night two with heat, meaning Cena wins, or just send them home happy with a Cody win? What would you do, and what do you think they'll do tomorrow night, Jeff?
Oh, there is no question, Connie. There is going to be a beer bash that's going to happen in Las Vegas right in the center of the ring. I have a strong feeling that Pat McAfee will be involved. You know, Cody will be involved. I have a strong feeling Stone Cold will be leading the charge. I think The Rock and Cena and maybe Solo, maybe I'm leaving a few out. Maybe a couple others are going to get soaked in suds as well. But there's a beer bash taking place, and yeah.
But does Cody retain? I mean, there is a world where Cody loses the belt, and then the glass breaks, and there's a celebration.
And I think that's the curve. You on the podcast, and we won't rehash it. You sold me a bill of goods, and I'm still buying it. If they're going to make Cena the 16-time champion,
17.
Excuse me, pal. Mania is the stage is set for so many things to happen.
It's going to be fun, of course, when we take a look back at night one after Jey Uso became the World Heavyweight Champion. We saw the tag team titles. It was the New Day becoming victorious, now one of the most decorated tag teams in WWE history. I think that was the 11th win, and they best the War Raiders, Eric and Ivar. I'm a big fan of Eric and Ivar, but for some reason, I've never felt that they had the right kind of synergy in WWE. Like, I think those guys could be an absolute tear in AEW, or I don't know, but inside the confines of WWE, I just don't think they've ever been given the rocket ship. But I was not surprised to see New Day pick up the win, and I like that they didn't stick around to celebrate. They hightailed it out of there. What'd you think of the tag title match tonight, Jeff?
Hey, look, I've Kofi and those guys are great. I still say it surprised me, Conrad. I thought they were going to stick with the War Raiders because those guys hadn't been champs a long time. And they've done the singles and they did the Big E, and I don't know, Conrad. I'm kind of just there with that match. I could have.
Coach Rosie says it was the flattest match of the night with the crowd. As far as crowd reactions, they weren't really into that one. Yeah. Coach also says that people were complaining about how long it was in between matches. They did a lot of packages. So if you were watching at home, they really brought you up to speed and caught you up on the backstory. And I do think that's especially important from a Netflix audience because you've got a lot of wrestling fans who aren't, as you would say, regular weekly watchers, Jeff, but they will watch one show a year, and it's WrestleMania. So if they're not completely caught up on the storylines, we need those packages. Do you view those as a necessary evil? We know it's going to kill some of the momentum for the live crowd. So maybe you have a different plan to entertain them. I know WCW used to have DJs during commercial breaks and things like that. But if you've been to like an SEC football game, then you know you've got the TV timeout, where when that guy's on the field, you're just kind of waiting and there's nothing to happen. It does bring down the energy in the stadium, but I think it's necessary for the broadcast. What say you, Jeff?
So I'd love to wonder what that Twitter account, the X account, the time between each match. That just to me is, again, I'm not gonna get out the Uzis and just carve it up, because I understand, but I love packages in between matches. But downtime, to me, that is something that I applaud AEW over and over and over. You want to talk about a pay-per-view or a premium live event, it's roll. I mean, go. So I love packages. I love backstage interviews. I love a thread. I love a story backstage, character development, whatever it may be. But just kind of filler, if you will. To me, and I understand both sides of it, but it lets the air out of the movie you're watching. When you go see, a Hollywood movie, you don't really let the air out of the movie for 5 to 7 minutes. And it feels like, Conrad, what is the runtime between matches? Do you know? I'd love to, if anybody's listening, whatever that account is, and I know they'll tweet the time between matches. It felt a lot at times.
I've never even seen that Twitter account, but Coach Rosie says it felt like it was about 15 minutes between matches, and that kind of makes sense.
Yep.
But I'm like you. I kind of wonder, where are they going with this New Day War Raiders thing? I think what they're going to use that for, since clearly New Day cheated, and they made that very apparent. And by the way, I'm glad heels are cheating again. There was a time where it felt like that was sort of passé in wrestling. We're seeing more of that now. And I assume we'll get a rematch, and maybe I'm armchair quarterbacking here, but I assume we'll get a rematch, and maybe Big E makes a surprise return and causes New Day to drop the belts. We'll see. I was really impressed by the next match, though, Jade, Cargill, and Naomi. And I got to tell you, Jeff, you and I have talked about this one before. This is sort of a historic match in that I think it's the first women's singles match that was non-title at WrestleMania since it was like a Playboy pillow fight or something 20 years ago. So it is important, and I do like that we have a lot of representation here. But I went into this match not really loving the story and thinking, well, if I'm going to take a bathroom break or go make my plate, this is the match. I was shocked. I was wrong. I apologize. This one exceeded all the expectations. I know that a lot of people online have been really critical of Jade. I thought she did fantastic, and I know that a lot of credit goes to Naomi. They did some really interesting feats of strength I've not seen before, and I think the Jade Cargill success train is maybe back on the tracks. I could see her walking away with some gold at SummerSlam this summer. What say you?
Connie, just got to shoot straight from the hip here, pal. My brother made the best damn beef tenderloin, and this is truly when I went and got my steak and potatoes and salad, and I missed this one, pal. There was some family kitchen time, and so I can't even comment on it, man. Just shooting right from the hip for you.
Well, check this out. According to the readers or the voters, or the subscribers of CageMatch.net, they gave Jey Uso and Gunther on a scale of 1 to 10, 4.27. They gave the New Day and the War Raiders 4.03. But for the ladies, they gave them a 6.17. We say it all the time on our podcast. Managing expectations is the key to life. Wow. I had really low expectations, and this exceeded them. And I took to Twitter to brag about it. I think anybody who missed it, and I would encourage you to do this too, Jeff, it will exceed your expectations. Next up, though, was something that a lot of people were interested in. What are they going to do with Jacob Fatu? Jacob Fatu is now the U.S. champ. We saw him best LA Knight. It took 10 minutes and 38 seconds. This was the second longest match so far on the show, only behind Jey Uso and Gunther. So yet another title change. So 3 of our 4 matches to start the show were for titles, and all three of them changed hands. LA Knight felt like he was positioned to be moving up the cards, Jeff, and maybe that momentum stalled a little bit. I thought we would be here with LA Knight like 18 months ago, and he would be moving up to be a challenger for the world title. Maybe that's still going to happen, I don't know what's to come there, but Jacob Fatu got a big reaction from the crowd. And this is a guy who had been positioned as a heel, but fans seem to be with it. Is his talent undeniable? And moving forward, would you try to continue to position him as this Samoan werewolf monster heel? Or would you lean into the reactions he's getting? And if fans are with it, make him a babyface. What say you, Jeff?
My counter right back to you. We'll keep the conversation moving along snappy. Where's this put Solo? Because you cannot deny Jacob. He is on a roll. He's spectacular. He's got an incredible aura. He's on a roll, and I don't think this hurts LA Knight a bit. He's still got all kinds of charisma, but this was, you know what? I was surprised the match lasted this long. Jacob is super aggressive, and his momentum who has more momentum? And I'm saying as a quasi new guy, nobody to me on the roster.
I think they've done an excellent job protecting him.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Penta tomorrow. He's one of their other new shiny toys. What do they do with him? We've already mentioned El Grande Americano and Rey Fenix. That got a 6.03 over at Cage Match. It went 7 minutes and 55 seconds. A little surprised they did that with Rey, but hey, listen, I don't know what talent wouldn't want to have an opportunity to go wrestle in front of that crowd. It's got to be
go ahead.
One of the largest crowds Rey's wrestled in front of. I mean, I know he was at All In, but 60,000 folks, that's a big crowd.
Huge crowd. I mean, and it's a bucket list. It's a memory for a lifetime. Jumping on WrestleMania and how the chips fell down. I didn't ever hear, I haven't been online much at all the last 24 hours, family and all kind of stuff. What is the latest update on Mysterio?
He has an injury to his lower extremity.
Oh, thanks for clearing that up.
That's what they said.
And he taken to the closest medical facility as well. Thank you.
But it wasn't so bad that he couldn't be standing on stage when they announced the AAA deal. There's been lots of rumor and innuendo about a match for tomorrow night, and we're actually getting questions about it here. Micmac wants to know, who will Randy Orton face tomorrow? And throughout the crowd tonight in Las Vegas, Coach Rosie, who's with us as our on-site correspondent,
I love it,
says that a lot of fans were thinking it might be Joe Henry. What do you think of Joe Henry perhaps answering and coming out for Randy Orton? Like, if that's the answer, I think that would be a cool moment and get a big reaction. But if he's just coming in to get RKO'd, I don't know if that's good for Joe or good for TNA. What say you?
It ain't happening. It would be my guess. I just don't. I think they're gonna. I think the suspense, how it's kind of drawn out. They may. I just don't see Joe Hendry. I just don't think he's got the current tailwind that's going to be necessary. I mean, Orton, what is this, 21 WrestleMania he's had? I think you're going to have a. I'll say this. Don't know who, can't put my finger on it. I don't think there's one opponent. I think there's going to be a storyline of 3 or 4 different cameos. How do you?
I would love that, but I think it's Sami Zayn. Because he's going to be stepping in for an injured Kevin Owens. I think just logically, Sammy stepping up for Kevin Owens. That's what I would expect.
You follow it so much. I mean, good. I can see that all making sense.
I don't know that that's it. I don't have any inside information.
Yeah, I hear you though. Logically, from a storyline point of view, that is not a letdown, if you will.
No, because when they hit that theme song, because there are a lot of Sami Zayn fans who are like, man, it sucks. He was in the main event with Kevin Owens against the Usos a couple of years ago, and now he's not even on this show.
Yeah. If
he's there, that could be it. We'll see what happens. I don't think. I mean, we know that Malachi Black has already been advertised for next weekend's SmackDown, and I don't think he would use that as an opportunity to bring Rusev back. I don't know. I could be wrong. We'll see. But the idea that we're talking about it means that they've done a good job just by not announcing anything.
Yeah, that's why I think they're going to have to over-deliver with surprises. Something to do with Randy's WrestleMania lineage, if you will.
I do want to ask you, Adam Krasnoff is with us here live, and he says, was the ending to night one too obvious of a finish? I think a lot of people picked up on best for business, and they're saying, hey, you know what? That's something that John Cena has said and The Rock has said. I think there is a contingent who are now convinced that it might actually be Seth Rollins helping cost Cody the title, since they were tag partners last year. And if that's the way it winds up, where it's sort of Cody and Roman as a tag team at a future pay-per-view against John Cena and Seth Rollins with Paul Heyman as their manager, I could really get excited about that. But I guess some people online think, hey, we saw it coming. And I know that sometimes in wrestling, we get caught up on the swerve, bro, and everybody wants a surprise. But every now and again, just finishing the logical story ain't that bad. Like, I didn't think halfway through Titanic, maybe some aliens are going to do a run in and the boat doesn't go down. Like, we know the end. So if we know that's where we're headed, do we have to have a swerve? Does it have to be a surprise, or is it okay to just deliver the logical story?
I think, I'm not saying kill a match or kill a match, too obvious finish, or kill a show. No, what I'm saying is, I think from a branding perspective, I've witnessed it. You can swerve to swerve, and it really creates brand fatigue in a bad way. So I think the too obvious, I might have to agree with you. Was it too obvious? But I think in a positive way.
I'm seeing a lot of comments from our live chat where people are saying that it was boring. Even McKay Club, maybe I'm saying that wrong, is saying, how can I get a refund from Peacock for wasting 4 hours of my life? I don't know what you expected when you saw this card. Like, I feel like I got exactly what I expected, nothing more, nothing less. But what everyone was paying attention to was this women's match. Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair. There was a lot of chatter, a lot of intrigue going into it. They got the second most time on the show, by the way. They went 19 minutes and 9 seconds. Only the main event went longer. And there was a lot of questions here. Can they work together? Are they going to sandbag each other? Are they going to shoot on each other? Where does the work begin and where does real life end? And then when it was all said and done, people were saying, hey, Tiffany had blood in her mouth. Oh, maybe she chipped a tooth. What'd you think of this? The champ came out first. The queen came out second. And Charlotte Flair is still a 14-time world champion, no longer vying for the title. Tiffany retains after her big cash in. What'd you think? Was this a good match? Did you like it?
I mean, I think that last comment, too obvious. I think I think they delivered exactly kind of what the doctor ordered in a real good way. Did Tiffany lose a tooth?
It was a chip tooth, I think. I don't know. I don't have all. I mean, that's what it looked like. It could have just been blood. At first, I thought it was lipstick, but I've heard a few people say, no, she had blood in her mouth earlier. Here's the deal. It ain't ballet, and I don't think these ladies necessarily gelled together. It felt like a rough night at the office, but occasionally I like that in wrestling. I like when it looks like a struggle. I don't like when everything looks choreographed. It's okay if it takes a second attempt, right?
I think, and I know the last match had so much story and intrigue, and, they had the brawling and the trash cans and all that, but I would put this up there as the top match of the night, just under the main event. And I thought it delivered in a lot of ways. I was really happy for both of them that they, the last couple of weeks and a lot of the I don't say nonsense chatter, but whatever went down. But at the end of the day, the two ladies delivered a fantastic wrestling match. They're both really, really good.
Goat McGee says this was a hell of a match. Tiffy time. That blood in her lip was a turn on. Just saying, buddy, you're into some weird shit. Cyrus Fees says, in Jeff's opinion, shout out to Cyrus.
Hey, Cyrus.
Did it feel like the chemistry was really off on that match? I did not think that they had outstanding chemistry. I did not think they had the smoothest match. I think we've seen them both have better matches with other opponents. But I think we all give that a pass, knowing that there might be some real life tension. Again, I don't know. You don't know. We're not exactly sure where the story ends. But I did think it was interesting that I had that view, but I heard from some of my other friends who thought, man, they had like Brett Shawn chemistry. I loved it. I think that authenticity of the struggle and the wonder of, what's really going on here, that's enough to set the hook for fans, right?
Only critique I would have for the match is 3 minutes shorter. That's it. That's it. But I understand. I don't know the deck and hand that was laid to everybody on the show. They got a lot of time. I thought that late in the night. Again, that pre-show started at what was it? 6-hour show? Counting the kickoff show. Long day. The fans said had filed into the building were certainly, and that's where it gets tough. But look, it's professional wrestling. It just felt like they could have gone home 2 or 3 minutes earlier.
It's a big night for Tiffany Stratton, though. She's never gone on this late in the show. This is her first big-time WrestleMania performance, her first defense. And it's a feather in the cap anytime you can beat the most decorated women's wrestler of all time. So shout out to both of those ladies. I'm sure it's not the last time we'll see them in the ring together. The main event is what everybody's talking about, though. They got plenty of time, 32 minutes and 39 seconds. Seth Rollins picks up the win after Roman Reigns gets betrayed, and so did CM Punk. CM Punk is given the chair by Paul Heyman as Punk lifts it up. Heyman delivers the low blow. Now Roman Reigns is relishing in the fact that he's got the chair, and he gets a low blow too. What do you think of this pairing, Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman? I, for one, like it. I've always loved Seth's in-ring stuff. I will say he's given some fantastic promos heading into last year's WrestleMania. I thought he had one of the best promos in the history of Raw. But sometimes his character can be over the top and a little dramatic, and I know that's by design, but I can say it's maybe not my favorite. But the pairing with Paul Heyman, as Bruce might say, gives him a fresh paint of coat, and I'm interested to see what that looks like. What do you think of that pairing of Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman?
I think it's coming out of this. It's the only natural progression. You talked about keeping the two merch sellers, the two baby faces intact, and the story that was told. I think it's the obvious choice. I think it gives, in an incredible way, it gives, to me, it throws, because look, we've seen Paul with Brock, and I know back in the day, Punk, but he's been with Brock, and then he was with Roman for a long time. And you just kind of see that. I think him with Rollins really helps Heyman as well. Great storyteller. I do like the dynamic of it. But Conrad, let me ask you something. Why didn't Punk go to the ring first? And I know I've got my production cap on, but he had the band and all that. I know the set, but they can move those set pieces off pretty quick. I thought that was an interesting choice of entrances.
I thought they did it exactly right, and here's why.
Okay.
Seth Rollins has main evented at WrestleManias before, and Roman has done like 10 of them. This was Punk's first one. I think the story was about he did a favor to Paul Heyman and Roman, and now it's being repaid, and his boyhood dream has come true. And I think they needed that to be the emphasis. And I think that's the reason he got the big promo and came in third. I get what you're going with, though, because for the last several years, it would have been unimaginable that Roman Reigns would have come out in any other position than last. But let's also be honest, Roman is more of a, respectfully, part-timer. Punk is making more of these shows, so it does feel like you want to push more equity that way.
Yeah, no doubt. I look, there's two sides of it. It's totally subjective, but
sure.
Just with the cult of personality and cranking things up. I don't know. Again,
Coach Rosie says the band took forever. So just logistically, another thing to consider, I guess,
is getting them off
that Roman Reigns entrance. I mean, we both have friends who've had marriages that last less time than Roman walking to the ring once. So I think they knew, hey, it's going to take him 12 minutes to walk down the ramp. That should be enough time to get the drum kits and everything else set up.
I hear you. Good stuff.
So we'll see. I don't know if you saw, Jeff, but there's some exciting merch that's on sale at WrestleMania this weekend. They're selling more Cody Rhodes stuff than you can shake a stick at. Obviously, tons of Roman stuff, tons of Punk stuff, tons of Cena stuff. But the shirt that I ordered for Cassio Kid, because I know that he can't wear this, he can't wait to wear this down to the bars and all that. I don't know if you saw this Hall of Fame shirt, but check this out. Available now at the WWE shop. So check out Cassio Kid sporting that Hall of Fame shirt.
He'll
It is
look
available now if you want to snag one over at
great.
Fanatics.
Cassio, he's always he's really like a guest model, in so many of the things that he wears. So good for you, Connie.
Yeah, he's going to look like a busted can of biscuits in that thing. It's going to be great. Jeff, I don't know if you saw, but over the weekend, Sting actually made an appearance at Wrestle Con. Of course, it's one of the biggest meet and greet opportunities of the year, and they got him to do something he doesn't do very often, and it was a nice change of pace. We saw tomato face Sting, but for the first time with the gray hair and the beard that's actually dyed red to match the wolf. What do you think of this, Jeff? How crazy is this look?
Old Stinger is truly on an incredible, I guess you could say, run. When you look on his social media and all the Comic-Cons he's hitting, and so, look, I know him very well, and just for me to see Sting out doing these almost every weekend tells me that he's really enjoying life in a great way. And so when I saw him in the red and black, it literally did put a smile on my face. I said, all right, Stinger's out. Mania weekend. He's having a good time, making a hell of a lot of money, but Sting don't need any money. He is really having a good time for him out to be signing like that.
Well, I mean, let's not say don't need any money. I mean, everybody, sure. Yeah. There was some, I see some chatter. McKay Club, I'm probably pronouncing their name wrong, says, so the main event was 3 guys fighting for a 59-year-old grown man like he was Maxine Dupree. I actually thought that was the best part. I couldn't believe it, but my wife actually watched all of WrestleMania with me this year. And I said, isn't this great? Like the main event drama. I mean, my phone was blowing up with my friends who were saying, oh, this is cinema. But I thought it was interesting when there's so much emphasis on the online conversation about work rate, star ratings, and things like that, that the story that had everybody on the edge of their seat is the portly middle-aged man with a folding chair. Who will he align himself with? That was the key. There wasn't a title. There wasn't a crazy cage or stipulation. It was just storytelling. And I think story wins the day here today at WrestleMania Night 1.
My father was alive. And yeah, I would, Lord, watching. Anyway, you'd have to bring him so up to speed on it. But anyway, let's hypothetically say he would be watching week to week to week, whatever it may be. He would have absolutely loved that finish because, hey, Jeff, just keep it simple. Get the people engaged on one thing. That's what they did. Who is he going to align with?
Kevin Tompkins says, I know WWE loves to drag things out, but it took 7 minutes from the time Heyman grabbed the chair to the 3 count. Seems excessive, but still a good double cross. I think that's just part of, and I don't know that this is just on me, but I feel like I've noticed that the later in the show your match is, the slower you move. You're not zipping through trying to see how many spots you can get in there. You're taking your time and you're letting it. Even my wife was sort of frustrated in the main event. She's like, why doesn't he just do something already? And I was like, baby, they got to wait until the crowd dies down. And then when it does, you'll hear that chair hit and then they can move on. But they're just milking the crowd. And Jeff, I've seen you do that so many times, especially at non-televised live events. I mean, even at Ric Flair's last match, the longer you stalled and the longer you drew it out, the more pissed and more of a fever pitch the crowd got to. I know that some people would say, get on with it, because we all live in this instant gratification world. But that's part of the magic of what you're doing, right? You want to build that anticipation and stretch them out and build the heat and get them pissed off, right?
Look, I won't go into a rabbit hole because you want me to keep this conversation moving, but I will remember 1993, Scott Hall, we did we'll call it a double down, and given the inside of inside baseball, but he screamed pretty loud, effing stay still. And how'd you just say it, Conrad, just a second ago? Yeah. The later you match is, the slower you move. I know you're doing a little bit tongue in cheek, but no, it's the drama. It truly is the drama and understanding. I go back to what I say on Tuesdays on My World. the ear is the most important thing. You really got to grow and fine tune listening to the people. It I don't say it's all that matters. It matters. It is at the very top of the priority, learning to listen to the people.
Tiffany Stratton has just appeared at the post-match presser, and she says, I don't want to get emotional, but she was my dream opponent. She was my dream feud, and making my WrestleMania debut, the story wrote itself. I cannot believe I defeated Charlotte Flair. I don't think it's set in yet. I'm still kind of processing everything right now. My face is still kind of beat up, but I feel amazing, and I'm going to take this momentum and make this title reign the best reign of my life. What a big moment it is. I think she's only 25 years old. This is a big vote of confidence for WWE to put her in that spot. And, you know, beating Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, that's a big deal, whether it's 2015 or 2025, right, Jeff?
And look, I always get my promoter cap on and probably overanalyze and overthink it, but she's 25 years old, beat, in my opinion, the greatest female professional wrestler who's ever laced up the boots. Where does she go from here, Conrad? And I you know, that was a big, and I'm not trying to bring us down here, but that's a big mountain to climb. Would it have been better off? Maybe not win this year, and maybe it happens next year. Here we go, playing armchair quarterback. But it was truly to me, it's kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity for her to be in that moment and win at 25 years of age.
CM Punk was approached in a backstage segment afterwards by Jackie Redmond, and he said no comment about Paul Heyman. Jey Uso, when he took his space at the post-match presser, he told the internet to soak it in. He's the champion. Big E has commented on the New Day win. Salute to them, I suppose, for winning a WrestleMania match. I believe it's their first WrestleMania win. But look at the way they did it. Is there any honor in that? Is anyone going to celebrate a win like that? Is that a match that will be replayed and years later, and we will stand on our feet and applaud them for their performance? No, it won't be. Man, I know they're teasing it. I don't know that he's been cleared, but can you imagine if Big E gets to come back? You want to talk about supercharging that New Day storyline? That would do it, wouldn't it?
Yeah. You see my man, Donald R. D. Sicko. You see that, Conrad? You want to read that question?
Did you see Xavier Woods doing the Fargo strut and the Ain't I Great knee down? What'd you think of that?
That's when a guitar shot needs to happen. But back to your, I did see. But yeah, Big E. But, you know, I think truth be known, the neck's not cleared or will ever be cleared. But, you know, New Day's been around a while. And it's, like I said, I could have gone either way. I think they need to put quite a bit of gas on those guys to get them back up and running.
Well, we enjoyed night one of WrestleMania.
Anyway, go ahead.
What did you say, Jeff?
No, just going from the New Day and not having Big E involved. I think it's hard for Kofi and Xavier. But again, let's see where it takes us.
Big E's also commented on Solo Sikoa. He says, I think the company was trying to position Solo as the guy, but Jacob was just undeniable. You mentioned that earlier when we talked about Jacob Fatu. Where does this leave Solo? Can you think of another time? I'm sure it's happened many times before, but when you look back over your time in wrestling, do you remember there being a guy who felt like he was poised to be the next guy, and then all of a sudden a new guy came in and
that's a good question.
He had to take the back seat.
You know what? On podcast this week, we may have, because that's a good thought, because man, oh man, you talk about the momentum that Solo, we all thought he had, and now it's like Jacob. I mean, he more than leapfrogged over him. It's very interesting to see where all that's going to go.
Do you think perhaps they just kept Solo in neutral so long because they were letting the bloodline story carry out, and then when they sort of abandoned it, he was a ship without sail?
I was going to say a casualty of creative change. Yep, it happens.
We got some more questions we want to get to. This is sort of your last call. If you got a question for Double J, hit us with it now as we wind down our discussion on night one's WrestleMania. Ian McCook says, now AEW is the longest running wrestling program in TNT Turner history. Well, on primetime. Does that make Double J the longest serving wrestler in Turner history? Now that's interesting. Given your time with WCW on Nitro and now your time with AEW on Dynamite, yeah, that might actually be the case. It's got to be like you and Sting, right? It's a pretty short list of guys it could be.
I don't even understand the question, but I've been there. I didn't realize that I was almost half of all Nitro episodes. I mean, I think I'm 15 short of it, but damn, that stat blew me away. So, Okada,
besides Sting, there's no, and he's retired.
Yeah.
You're the only wrestler in AEW who was on Nitro, right?
Nope. Dustin Rhodes.
Dustin was never on Nitro. Oh, no, wait, he was the second time. I was thinking the first time. You're right. He did come back.
Yep. Jericho.
That'd be interesting.
Jericho.
Yep. Jericho was on both. Yep. There you go.
I think it's us three. I think
it's still Tony Schiavone. He's got more screen time than all you guys, right?
Crazy that Schiavone April 6th of 85 and I'm April 6th of 86. It's the damnedest. Well, that's when he got on TBS, so it's not the exact.
Yeah. Luis Mendoza says, my favorite line is, what's subjective is debatable. What's less debatable is what's logical at the core level. Thoughts related to booking. I don't know what that means, Jeff. I'm going to let you take a stab at it.
Luis, I am trying to follow along, but it's not the middle of the night yet. But my favorite line is, what's subjective is debatable. Hell, wrestling logic. Do I need to call up Dutch Mantel and figure out if he can figure this out? But what's logical at the core level? Is that the wrestling level? Thoughts related, not related, but related to booking. Luis, my man, I wish I could answer this logically. But if you're talking about wrestling or something related to wrestling booking, I'm going to go back to the beginning. It's all subjective, pal. But what's not subjective is the box office.
Well, they are going to set all kinds of records this weekend at WrestleMania. It was sold out tonight. I'm sure it's going to be sold out tomorrow. The main event will be here before you know it. It's going to be Cody and Cena. I guess we could very briefly run through now that we've seen night one and get some predictions. Io Sky, Bianca Belair, and Rhea Ripley. Last call, Jeff. Who do you think gets their hand raised? Is it Io, Bianca, or Rhea?
I'm going to go to Rhea. I remember because Io was a champ and I got all that messed up. Anyway, Rhea.
Another little bit of a swerve. We saw some news breaking today that Bayley is injured. A PW Insider has said, if you're worried about the real life person, she's fine. But creatively, she's injured. So now that means Lyra has 24 hours to find a new tag team partner to challenge Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. And I don't know, but I think Becky Lynch was sitting in Gorilla tonight during the main event. Is this the return of Becky Lynch tomorrow, or what do you expect, Jeff?
No, it's not the return of Becky Lynch. I don't know where they're going with it. They're going to try to bring some. I don't know. Are they bringing a talent up? I'm not dialed into this story at all.
Be interesting to see what they do there. We're also going to see AJ Styles, a guy you're pretty familiar with, taking on Logan Paul. Final answer, who gets their hand raised, Logan or AJ?
Oh, I'd love to see my man Allen win, but Logan's getting his hand raised.
Braun Breaker will be defending his Intercontinental title against Penta, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio. Lots of intrigue coming into this one. It's almost a coin flip for a lot of folks. What do you think happens here, Jeff?
Braun over Finn in the show stealer of the night.
The show stealer, okay. Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. You want to call this one?
Oh, street fight. Look, Drew, his effort always just far and above, but I just don't see him going Damian with the win.
So wait, hang on. So you said you don't see Damian with the win? You think Drew's going to win?
I think Damian will win. Drew,
I think Damian needs it more than Drew. Does that make sense?
Without question. You summed it up.
Yeah. Randy Orton versus to be announced. Lots of speculation. Final answer, who do you think it's going to be? And will Randy win, or will the mystery opponent win?
I think it's going to be a who's who of Randy's career, but at the end of the day, Nick Aldis is going to take the cutter.
By the way, I don't know if you saw this, but we're seeing some people mention it in the comments because you and I haven't spoken about it. But I guess Braun Breaker over the weekend had a live mic in front of a big crowd.
The math.
Breaker math, which is certainly a tip of the cap to your creation, TNA, where his uncle was out there doing Steiner math. It's one of the most, if not the most iconic promo in TNA history. Certainly one of the most memed and celebrated. Were you surprised that Braun broke that out? I can't imagine that's the only time we hear him do that, right?
I hate to say that but I truly believe that's the best promo Braun's ever done. It's going to be hard to top. And I'm not kidding. His delivery was spot on. I think you need to take that. I think the writers need to get in the room and take that flavor where it's just a little bit off kilter, but there's a method behind that madness. It works. I truly believe that. Make Braun. I just think you need to extrapolate that out. I'm all for it.
The main event tomorrow is Cody Rhodes and John Cena, and I wonder what this crowd is going to be like. I don't know that you saw the confrontation that happened on SmackDown, but the fans actually started booing Cody pretty strong, and I got sort of WrestleMania 18 vibes for Rock and Hogan. By the end of the promo, though, Cody had turned them. The same fans who were booing Cody were chanting his name. He gave a little tip of the cap to Eric Bischoff's 83 Weeks podcast, where Eric and I had an absolute meltdown about Sting's tan at Starrcade 97. Appreciate Cody showing a little love there. But did you see the promo, and were you surprised that Cody was able to turn him around? And what do you expect tomorrow? Will it be a 50-50 crowd, Jeff?
Yes. I mean, I think it'll be 100-0 at times and flip-flop the other way, and 50-50, 75. It's going to be, there's just, you cannot replace the memories that John Cena has instilled in the wrestling fans. And there is and always will be that vocal minority that just wanted to boo the shit out of Cena for years and years and years and years and years. And they're getting this opportunity. But truth be known, you're seeing the passing of the guard, the handing of the baton, whatever it may be. And I think the people can absolutely feel it in their bones. So they're going to be emotionally invested. But you better believe Cena is going to get cheered out of the building with this. And I don't want to call it international crowd because there's plenty of domestic folks in there. But the premium live event, the pay-per-view crowd that will have, you could hear them at times tonight, Conrad, and I don't say the crowd going into business for themselves, but they wanted to chant things regardless of what was going on. I think you're going to see that, and I think there is so much at its very, very core. You just kind of look at the history of John. He, in so many ways, brought a lot of them to the dance. And I think there's mad respect across the board. And I know Roman gets accolades and others, but man, when you drill it right down to it, and the stories that Cena has told week in and week out, and you said the other day, Jeff, he hasn't really been full-time since, I think you said 16 or 14 or whatever it may be, a while. But man, Conrad, when he's been in and the storytelling, it is just so hard to, you can't erase it. I'm not saying anybody should, but it's going to be 50-50 tomorrow. And I think it's going to make you feel proud. It's what wrestling does. You enjoy it and you walk away from the event, whether it's Wembley Stadium, Globe Life, a Dynamite, a Collision, a Raw, a SmackDown, an Impact, whatever it may be, you walk away from it with enjoyment. That's what's going to happen tomorrow night.
Well, folks are enjoying you here, Jeff. SP says, Jeff, I just wanted to express my gratitude towards all your contributions to wrestling. God bless you always.
Thank you, SP.
And one last question just for you, Jeff. The real Brock Hall wants to know, is Cam Ward the guy who will turn our franchise around? I live in Green Bay, and I'm attending the draft as a diehard Titans fan of 25 years. Hashtag Tighten Up.
That was the topic of discussion tonight at our Easter dinner. And I can tell you, I've got lots of football authority. My nephew plays for the University of Tennessee. Conrad, I can't wait to share a few of those stories. But you know what? I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see Cam Ward being our guy. I just don't. Sorry.
I do want to answer this one question. We got it several times tonight. I don't know the answer, but I'm going to take a stab at it. Carmen Meekum Jr. says, do you guys know why Lex Luger wasn't on the stage when they announced the Hall of Famers? As a reminder, tomorrow is Easter. So Jeff and I are going to be wrapping up. I know some of us who are on this have to get ready for the Easter Bunny to visit and things like that. But Lex Luger is a professional speaker. He goes out and speaks and things. So this is a big opportunity for Lex to share his story and all of that. So I can only guess that he probably traveled back home today after at the conclusion of Wrestle Con, so he could wake up and make his appearance and do a proper Easter service. Again, I don't have any inside information, but I'm just venturing a guess because I think even he was sort of caught off guard when he was on with Eric and I right after it was announced that he was going into the Hall of Fame, that it was happening on Easter weekend. So I can only imagine that he planned on doing WrestleCon on Saturday, but being home on Sunday. Just a guess. I could be wrong. Anything else you want to hit on tonight for WrestleMania as we're bringing our WrestleMania Night 1 coverage to a close, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, this is fun. I'll just say this in closing. I hope, but we're going to be busy out at StarCast. I would love to do these. Maybe we'll do it after Double or Nothing. I don't know. I may be doing it from a hotel room, pal, but I like this. I really do. The kind of the spontaneous, and we're chatting, and at our very core, our DNA, what brought me and you together is our love of professional wrestling. So let's do this again.
I would absolutely love if we got to do that after AEW pay-per-views. I just always assumed it was too challenging for you. So if there's a possibility, let's do it.
It'll be from a hotel room. And remember, let's not leave this, Silva. I know you're probably dozing by this time. It's way past your bedtime. I'll be on West Coast time.
Oh, so you'll be awake. What's that? Brandon Thurston pointed out that Nick Khan was on the Bill Simmons podcast this week, and Bill Simmons was just a few seats down from TKO president Mark Shapiro. I'm sure you saw them taking some bumps in front of Mark Shapiro and thought, they're servicing the boss tonight.
How about that, pal?
Well, that'll do it, boys and girls. We hope you enjoyed night 1 of WrestleMania. Night 2 is coming right on time. I hope if you celebrate that you and your family have an awesome Easter tomorrow. And don't forget, Jeff and I come your way each and every Tuesday. You can go ahead and hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell right now. And Johnny, I know you're asking, can we do this again tomorrow night? Yes, we can. But I'm going to be doing it with Eric Bischoff. You want to jump on with me and Eric tomorrow, Jeff? If you like it, let's do it.
Well, I don't want to interrupt you guys. I may pass my bedtime. No, I don't know. We'll talk about it, Connie. Seriously.
Well, I'm going to try to twist his arm and get him on there. Let's make it happen.
I don't want to impede on, tonight's a My World special. I don't want to impede on 83 weeks, but let's talk about it between
Let's talk about it. And stay tuned. Tomorrow night, immediately following WrestleMania, you can go to 83weeks.com and you'll be able to hear from Eric Bischoff after night 1. I hope that Jeff can join us, but if he doesn't, Jeff and I are going to be discussing night 2 this Tuesday, and every Tuesday we'll be back your way talking more wrestling, which, by the way, includes AAA and CMLL and New Japan and TNA and WWE and, of course, AEW. It's all coming your way every Tuesday right here on My World.
Peace.